All right, thank you all for coming. Tonight we're going to be thinking about two areas. One, which I'll explain in a second, is portrait of a graduate. The second one will be the budget. So I will be speaking on portrait of a graduate first, and then Ann's going to talk about budget, then there'll be some time for questions after that. So what is a portrait of a graduate? This summer I went to a conference, and there was a section that talked about comprehensive planning versus portrait of a graduate. Portrait of a graduate is totally different than what a comprehensive plan is, if you know anything about that. Comprehensive plan, if you've been involved, we get all the stakeholders together, we talk about some of the goals for the district, put it in a binder, and then that's what we do for the next 3 or 4 years. Portrait of a graduate is totally different. It is in the lines of a comprehensive plan, but it's really taking the input from the stakeholders, and I'm talking every stakeholder, students, teachers, parents, business leaders, administrators, board members, everybody in the community, and we build what we want our graduate to look like as they walk across the stage when they're graduating. And it's kind of a backward design, meaning once we decide what we want, when I say we, it's everybody in this room. I've done this at the student forum last week for our students. We're going to continue to do this for months in advance to gather as much information as we can. And then once we've designed our portrait of a graduate, then as a district, we need to look at how we're instructing our students to meet that portrait. So it's kind of a backward design piece. So the first thing, I have a couple videos to show you about what things are going to be like in the future.
Digital assistants, driverless cars and trucks, medical diagnostic software, research bots. These are just the beginning. Each month, job markets are transformed or reduced in size tenfold as a workforce of 100 becomes a systems administrator of 1. Keynes' decades-old worry of the new disease of technological unemployment looms larger with each passing moment. The second machine age, fueled by artificial intelligence, is here, and the types of work and industries affected are multiplying. For the next generation of workers, there will be fewer and fewer traditional jobs, and those that remain will be unrecognizable. In this brave new world, humans must be equipped to transform the way they work, think about work. What kinds of jobs will exist in a world where sectors such as manufacturing, retail, analysis, shipping, and transportation are governed completely by artificial intelligence? What would employers value, and what would this new economy value? Smart will no longer be enough. Computers are smart and already outstrip us in data storage, information retrieval, mathematical analysis, chess strategy, Jeopardy. Humans must be something different. New jobs will value the uniquely human skills, irreplaceable by even the most powerful of computers. Things like innovation, persuasion, curiosity, and adaptability. And of course, the ability to use AI tools to drive those skills. How you think becomes more important than what you do. As Kevin Kelly said, AI is for answers, humans are for questions. Where machines think linearly, set on one task that they execute with impossible precision, humans must train themselves to think around corners, up walls, and through impossible echelons of cognition. Machines will organize, analyze, and package the data, but humans must see new patterns, tie them to one another, and create new connections, strengthening old concepts and weaving them into something wholly new. The cold truth is that AI will eliminate millions of jobs in the current market, but what this offers us in return is an opportunity to focus our thoughts and energies on the uniquely human problems facing us. We will all be able to share in productivity and automation. What we do with that time is up to us.
So this is giving you a look into how we have to adapt to what education is going to become for our students. So some of the areas that we're going to look at, how has the world changed? We need to examine how the world has changed and the implications for our students. The essential skills and habits of mind, discussing the competencies students need to thrive today and tomorrow. A shared vision, identify and contextualize the competencies that should be part of a shared local vision for a community's portrait. And that's the most important part, is the shared vision. It's really all about what the people in Exeter Township School District want for our students, not other districts, all what we want. And then our portrait of a graduate, we're going to be discussing how to make our locally developed, globally positioned portrait a reality for every student. how the world has changed. Examining the world has changed, how it's changed, and the implications for our students. Again, the essential skills and habits of mind, the shared vision, and the portrait of a graduate. Why consider the landscape shift? To learn how the world has changed and consider if the learning experiences in our classrooms have changed with it. We need to look inside to make sure we're meeting the needs of our students. How do we prepare students so that they can capitalize on the opportunities presented by these shifts and be cushioned by the shift's worst impacts? So we'll be asking ourselves, do the skills and mindsets exhibited by Exeter Township School District represent an accidental chance or an intentional outcome of our community's vision for our students? So how are we going to process the landscape shifts? Round one will be the routine and non-routine. The gig economy, service economy, environment, technology, information explosion. We're touching on these briefly, but these will be the areas that we look at. So routine and non-routine. Workforce needs for a new economy. Started out in the agricultural phase. Moved on to the manufacturing and industrial age. The present shape, format, and structure of our schools were conceived during that time. Now we've moved into the information and computer age, and we're looking forward at the high concept, high touch stage. Then and now, if you look on the left, you see people, you see them working on cars. If you look on the right, it's robotics. So how do we prepare our students for this world? And incidentally, there is a farm in Kutztown right now that does all robotics. There's a crew of one person and the owner. Everyone else, it's done through robotics. So when we do talk about routine and non-routine tasks, the high task routinization, the routine work, only one best way to complete a task, linear sequential, logic-based decisions. Example would be the production line worker. Moving to the high task variety, knowledge work, unique solutions, non-linear processes, intuitive decisions, for example, the professional engineer. Breaking the routine. Routine manual, forklift operators, appliance repairers, factory workers, to the non-routine, home health aides, hairstylists, janitors. Routine cognitive, bookkeepers, paralegal clerks, bank tellers, to the non-routine, public relations, computer programmers, administrators, and educators. Breaking the routine from January 01 up to January 14. Routine manual forklift operators, cognitive, all down. 15%, 10%. The non-routine manual home health aides up 25%. That is the direction that the jobs are going and the future is going. Service economy. Most occupations require more frequent human interaction. 80% of jobs have a service component. What does this mean for our students' learning? Are we providing that in the classroom? Again, service economy. 1940s, agricultural was up about almost 70%. Now it's down to about 4%. Industry was at about 10%. It's leveled off, downward trend, about 20%. Service industry was at 20%, almost up to 80%.
Agriculture was 70% of jobs.
Yes,
Wow.
that was the distribution of labor force. The gig economy. Being your own boss means what in terms of skills and responsibilities? Do our students know that? 20-30% of the working age population engages in contracted project work. What does this mean for our students' learning? The environment. What competencies would one need to navigate a society that grows more populated and older in the future? The environment and climate change is the top concern of millennials. What are we reinforcing in our classrooms? Technology. Let's talk about computers. 1997, we'd fill up about half of this room with our computer, one computer. In 2007, you fit your PlayStation under your Christmas tree. Today, most everyone has your phone, which is now the size of a pocket compared to 1997. The information explosion. How do we teach our students to critically consume and evaluate the quality of information? Or do we just give them the information? Time it takes for knowledge to double. In 1900, it took 100 years. 1950, it took 25 years. Now, 18 months. This is interesting. How long does it take to hit 50 million users? Automobiles, it took 62 years. Mobile phones, it took 12 years. For Pokemon Go, it took 19 days. Now we get to round two. Design for meetings, civic discourse, high concept, high touch, demographics, empathy, and pace of change. So design for meeting. What is this? Anybody know? Take a guess? It's an MRI machine. What kid would be afraid of that? That's a pretty neat concept. So design for meaning. How do educators design meaningful learning experiences for our students, moving beyond mundane and functional? We've got to revisit that. Civic discourse. There's greater demand for civic skills, changing forms of communication, growing size and diversity of our republic, and growing complexity of public policy issues. Demographics. Again, spread out all over the world. Generations today. We've gone from mature, silence, baby boomers, Generation X, millennials, and now we have Generation Z. The changing demographics. What competencies would one need to navigate a society that grows more populated and older in the future? 1960, the population is 179 million. 2060, the population is expected to be 418 million. High concept, high touch. What is that? Getting the most out of life. High concept involves the capacity to detect patterns and opportunities, create artistic an emotional beauty to craft a satisfying narrative and to combine seemingly unrelated ideas into something new. High touch involves the ability to empathize with others, to understand the subtleties of human interaction, to find joy in oneself and to elicit in others, and to stretch beyond the quotidian, the everyday, in pursuit of purpose and meaning. Technical skills matter, but even more so when combined with empathy, compassion, and care. Again, high touch. A few books: Stepathy, Humans Are Underrated, and Dancing with Robots +1. Empathy. One more video.
So what is empathy, and why is it very different than sympathy? Empathy fuels connection. Sympathy drives disconnection. Empathy, it's very interesting. Teresa Wiseman is a nursing scholar who studied professions, very diverse professions where empathy is relevant, and came up with 4 qualities of empathy. Perspective taking, the ability to take the perspective of another person or recognize their perspective as their truth. Staying out of judgment, not easy when you enjoy it as much as most of us do. Recognizing emotion in other people and then communicating that. Empathy is feeling with people. And to me, I always think of empathy as this kind of sacred space when someone's kind of in a deep hole and they shout out from the bottom and they say, I'm stuck, it's dark, I'm overwhelmed. And then we look and we say, hey, I'm down. I know what it's like down here, and you're not alone. Sympathy is, ooh, it's bad, huh? No. You want a sandwich? Empathy is a choice, and it's a vulnerable choice, because in order to connect with you, I have to connect with something in myself that knows that feeling. Rarely, if ever, does an empathic response begin with at least. I have it, yeah. And we do it all the time. Because you know what? Someone just shared something with us that's incredibly painful, and we're trying to silver lining it. I don't think that's a verb, but I'm using it as one. We're trying to put the silver lining around it. So, I had a miscarriage. At least you know you can get pregnant. I think my marriage is falling apart. At least you have a marriage. John's getting kicked out of school. At least Sarah is an A student. But one of the things we do sometimes in the face of very difficult conversations is we try to make things better. If I share something with you that's very difficult, I'd rather you say, I don't even know what to say right now, I'm just so glad you told me. Because the truth is, rarely can a response make something better. What makes something better is connection.
Student engagement. Look at the trends from grades 5 through 12 in student engagement. They go down the percent of feeling engaged from 75% down into the 30s when we get to the upper grades. Look at the 2 classrooms. On the right, engaged, doing something with their hands, there's collaboration. You look on the left, you see the girl all the way on the left in the front row, she doesn't look like she's in the class. Disengaged. Student perceptions of school culture. In this study, 44% of 6th grade students rate their school culture positively. 9th grade, 32% rated it positively. 11th grade, 28% rated it positively. So what are we doing to improve that? Student perceived conditions that make a difference. Grade levels, again, go down. Teachers help me learn from my mistakes. They're about 80%, down into below 60%. School inspires me to learn. About 78%, down to that under 60%. What I learned in school will benefit my future. Almost 90% in 6th grade, down below 70%. Students are the potential, not the problem in our educational systems. The way we do school itself, not the students or the teachers or other adults in the system, but the system itself is the culprit. We can do better, we must do better, and together we will do better. We have to do better. Pace of change. How do we prepare our students? Pace of change, 25 to 50-year-olds. Previous average worker, maybe 2 to 3 jobs in their career. Today's early to mid-career worker, 18 to 42 years of age, over 10 job changes. Waves of innovation, 1785 to 1884, 1845 to 1900 to 1950, and now the wave, the innovation gets higher. We're on our 6th wave, sustainability, radical resource productivity, biomimicry, green chemistry. Information shelf versus lifespan. They were living 25 to 30 years in the ancient Romans. Maybe they kicked it into about 35 years old. Renaissance period, they made it almost to 50. We're living longer, longevity is there, but social change is coming quicker. So what are we doing here tonight? You are here to let us know what you want on the plate for your graduate. That's why there are paper plates in front of you and markers. So what we're asking you to do is to take a couple minutes to reflect what we've heard, what we need to do for students, and then write down on that paper plate the skills, the abilities, what we want our graduates to look like in Exeter. Take about 5-10 minutes to complete that. I appreciate it. We will add it to the rest, and then we will have some time for questions. Be happy. This is something that we saw in conference last Saturday. I'm not sure at all. All that, and that's right, that all. I see what you're saying.
She has 2 plates.
Did you get one? Did you get a paper plate? You're a
Right.
student, right?
Yeah.
You want to give us your impression of what you think the graduate should have when they go across the stage?
Sure.
Sure. You're important. You're a student. We're getting as many things inputted as possible. So really what it comes down to is what do you think the qualities you need to go out into the workforce, to go to college, to go out into life? All that's all it is what do you think we need to prepare you to go into the
Just
work?
like bullet points?
Yep.
There's where the car is wrong. That's sad. That's sad. Very vocal right now. Mom's up age 25.
And before we move on to the business end, does anybody have any questions, or do you want to make some statements about what we saw, where we're trying to go with this?
I will.
Perfect.
I thought that was a really nice presentation. I thought it was really great. But one of the things that really upsets me a lot, and I feel very passionate about this, is where is the people? Where are the people in the community? They need to hear this as well too. As a parent, I know, even if I wasn't the union president, I want to be here because I want to hear something like this.
Well,
So I think as a district, we need to basically be in people's faces.
Well, we're going
Like
to
a lot.
I'm going to go into Chamber of Commerce meetings, we're going to go into APT meetings, we're going to go into faculty meetings. Again, we're going to be.
We need to go to sports meetings. We need to go to meetings where it involves parents of booster clubs.
Mhm.
Seriously. Our district is so much more than football. We are so much more than the band. We are so much more than soccer, baseball, or anything like that. We have some of the best educators in our community. And that's what our parents need to start focusing on. And I'm sorry, I will be very vocal about that because I think I'm a passionate person about that. So.
I will tell you that.
We have so much potential, by the way, in our district.
I agree.
Our teachers are awesome, just to let you know, okay?
Friday, I did this at the student forum, and it was amazing, some of the answers from the students. A lot of the soft skill stuff. Nobody talked about
Exactly.
sports, they talked about grit, they talked about durability, they talked about communication skills, things like that. So we need to bring that into our classrooms. Anybody else want to share?
I appreciate what we saw. How realistic is it to change that, though? To change the format of what it is and how it is that we're teaching our kids?
That's a good question. We went to, now there are districts, as I was saying, Greg. I was talking to Greg. There are districts, like Effort is a close one. It's kind of close to us. Brick Springs, Lancaster, I believe it is, North New York. They've been doing this for 6 years, so this isn't going to happen overnight. But it's a process. We're going to spend the rest of this year gathering all the information. So we give as many people as we can an opportunity to tell us what they want their graduate to look like. Then we need to make the hard choices, and then people have to adapt. We need to, in the classroom, we work with the teachers. There needs to be, and I'm using some of the examples from the district, that there's 200 districts in the country doing this right now. And we listened to some of the districts. They changed the way it's being taught in the classroom. You have to, we talk about the 4 C's, critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and creativity. One of those C's has to be in every lesson that's taught in this district. And it becomes on the objective on the board. The students know it's in there. They can pick it out and they can write it in a journal. How they learn creativity in Mrs. Clueswood's math class today.
Oh, I don't teach
Well, you might
soft skills.
creativity.
No, I don't.
But I mean, that's the kind of stuff that it becomes a culture. And the best part about this culture is it's not coming from me, it's not coming from teachers, it's coming from the community. So we sit at, I've talked about Coretti Burks, it's this new county-wide push to prepare our students for this landslide of 30,000 manufacturing jobs that are going to be due in a few years. Well, if you listen to these things, the robots are going to be doing that. But somebody's got to work the robots. As I said before, there's a farm, a working farm in Kutztown. No one touches a cow. They're milked, they're fed, the hay is dropped over a head from a tram. It's amazing to see. And it was a farm that at one point, the farmer and one of his hands, I think they had 12 cows. They didn't want to get rid of the guy, they feel bad. So they keep them on, they have 120 cows, and nobody's touching the cows anymore.
How do they hook up the machines?
Well, he's got to hire people that have a STEM background to do that. And what he
So
said,
the cows walk to an area.
they walk into that bubble that you saw. Totally, they have a sensor on their hoof,
Yeah.
and it's red. And then they get a special feed based on what the computer reads their computer chip. So you might have to, well, not you, but the cow might have to get more vitamins today, or it might get this, might get that. And then it's fed this, apparently it's very delicious, so they want to come for it.
Okay.
But they have the hay and the salt lick to them all day. And they have little electrodes that sit down, and if you're a cow who's got in there before he's there to be milked, it's 18 hours. If they're in the trough and you're not supposed to be there, you get a little shot to get out of it. Even the waste is, they have like a little pooper scooper if you go on the ground. And it scrapes it all the way off, and it goes out into the fields for fertilizer. It's amazing to see. We took a tour, a bunch of superintendents, we took a tour up to Kutztown. Guy was an agricultural major, sat at a party next to an electrical engineer, or mechanical engineer major. They started talking. They have this flourishing business that does this. People created 36 franchises. They come from all over the country. They fly in their big personal jets into Reading. They come to see his working farm, and they buy these multi-million-dollar robotics. They go to take it to Nebraska and Iowa and lots of other places. He's looking to hire our students out of high school. What he says, though, is he ends up not being able to do that because nobody wants to work on a farm. They don't realize for $50,000 you can be working on a farm programming robotics. He'll either have to hire an engineer for help for $100,000, or he gets the guy who's deciding between his farm and sheets, and then he has to train him the whole time. So, they're asking for this type of development for our students. But when we sit in these meetings, the CEOs, they all say the same thing. Soft skills. They need to be able to work with the community. They need to be able to look people in the eye. They have to fill out a resume, really, all those kind of things that now has to become a focus for us. And this whole thing that you all just helped us in is a backward design. And what I mean by that is when you are telling us the community of Exeter wants X, Y, and Z in our students, then we need to look at what we're doing and change what we're doing to provide that for our students. That's the whole basis for this. And yes, it's not going to happen probably before your son graduates. I would like to see that happen, but it's a process. And again, the schools that have been doing it for 5, 6, 7 years, Dr. Winters and I were at the conference. The guy in Ephrata, he's been doing it for 6 years. It's flourishing there. And the guy in Big Springs has been doing it for 6 years. We'll be the first ones in the county that I know of that's doing it. Yes, sir.
So, what's your plan for how long it's going to take to implement this? Because you just did show slide presentation that stuff changes in 18 months. So if this is going to take you 3 years to implement it may not be relevant then. The whole plan may be gone.
Well, the plan is still
but I'm just saying that something else may come along and they may be looking for something else. So it needs to be, not that you want it to be accelerated, but you can't put a plan in for 3 years down the road when technology is changing every day.
You just described what the comprehensive plan is. It's a plan that we put in place that the state needs to get from us. That's a 3, 4, 5-year plan. This is fluid. This is something that we can come back to every year and revisit. And it's visual. You know, again, that binder that's on the shelf, how many have taken the opportunity to go in the administrative office and look at that? This plan will be plastered all over the community, all in our schools, and this starts in the kindergarten. This is not something that just goes out of the high school. We teach those soft skills, obviously at a different level, but with our little guys and our little girls. And they grow with it. And then those are the things that are building for the future.
I will have to say though, just from being like in a industry besides teaching before, but one of the things that makes Americans great is our willingness to change, our creativity, our way of thinking outside the box. It's not just 1 + 1 = 2. What does that 2 end up? And I think that's important. And that's one of the things that when you talk about soft skills, and I can't believe I'm actually agreeing with you right now. But anyways.
Hey, write this down. Somebody get it on film.
I know, it's on TV, I get it. But one of the things that I think that we need to teach our students, it's so paramount amount, is not just like the science, the technology, the English, but how are we going to take that to the next level? How are we going to be the forefront? One of the things that I learned in college when I went through business was not Americans. They don't necessarily are like the ones that are the technology advanced. We're not. But we are the creative people, though. We think outside the box. We can actually say, this is going to happen. This is a laptop that's going to happen in every single household in the United States. This is an iPhone that's going to happen in every single person. We do that. Other countries might take that idea and make it more technology advanced, but we are the creative thinkers. And I believe in that. And I honestly, I do get, I'm a teacher. Obviously, a lot of people know that, but I also feel very passionate about Exeter. I feel that our students are fabulous, our staff is fabulous. I don't understand why we are not at the next level sometimes. And a lot has to do with the community. A lot has to do with the partnership between the administration, teachers, and the community. It doesn't, the fear of, like quoting Hillary Clinton, it does take a village. It does. It takes a village to raise a child, but it takes everybody, collaboration, to do that. And I'm very disappointed that our community is not out here right now. So.
You just mentioned 2 Cs, collaboration and creativity.
Yes. And we don't always have to get along, but we all have the same goal. It's making our students successful, and I think that's important. Not just successful in Exeter, in Berks County, in the United States, but in the world. We need to be competitive in the world. I mean, we are raising the next generation. Sorry, I was just talking too much. I just feel very passionate about these things. So.
An interesting conversation I had with my son. I picked him up after the PSATs, and he said he didn't understand why it is with history class. Why do we have to memorize all these dates? Why am I memorizing all these dates? And I reminded him how important it is to remember what our past is so that we don't repeat it. And he said, well, then why can't I just learn the basic of what happened back then, how we grew from that, and where we can go from there? Why am I memorizing all these dates, these names, these places? And it loses me. I check out. And along from what we're talking about, it's true. There's got to be a way of teaching our students where it's not checking them out, where they can be more creative and more engaged.
I totally agree. And this is the beginning of that shift.
Where I run afoul of programs like this, 49% of the people in the United States are less capable of pick a topic because they're less than average. Yeah. And your man that needs someone to input the data into the machine at the farm, I'll bet you I could go out in this school and find a dozen people, or even a high school, and find a dozen people in 10 minutes that were incapable of doing that. All right? Why do you have to memorize? emergency procedures in aircraft. If I gotta get the book out, we're dead. Good answer for your son.
Well, I
What's a
might
good
memorize
thought,
it,
But, you know, what about those kids? I want to bring them up as far as I can. I want them to maximize every talent they have and every capability. And if I'm concentrating on the 74th percentile that can actually input the data in your farmer's machine, what's going to happen to the 25th percentile? What's going to happen to the 27% of our people that have a mental problem or adjustment problem?
The mental health issues is another
Yeah.
concern, but this is 100% of our kids. This is not just the upper echelon, if you will. All our kids
Yeah, but
need
if you
some
have a
skill.
kid that's worried about getting enough courage to get up and come to school in the morning, don't talk to him about this is where he can be. First, we gotta get him to school.
Well, but I think, I'm hoping that I understand what this is. I actually had a very long conversation today with a student at Mr. Campbell at the high school who is losing motivation and drive because he doesn't want to sit and memorize things. He doesn't understand the meaning. He is a firefighter. He does so much for our community, but he was telling me today, if you put the paper in front of me, I would sign out because I don't see the point in this. I could be out saving 10 lives today, but I'm stuck here doing this. So I'm hoping that this provides our students meaning and that they will want to come to school. That it won't be such a anxiety-ridden day for them. They'll find meaning, they'll find opportunities, and they'll build those relationships. That's where I'm hoping this goes and what that vision can be.
I think you almost need a both. I think you need a combination of both, the memorization as well as understanding exactly what
There is
happened.
no one program that's gonna put everybody.
There is absolutely.
Well, and this isn't, I mean, this is a soft skills per se
Yes.
program. The academics are gonna always be there. We're not walking away from them. But, you know, what I'm hearing is that's all we're doing is the academics.
Applying the
Are we
academics to.
providing, how are you gonna be creative? Let's take those dates and let him be creative and put something together on how he's gonna remember those dates. I don't know, I mean, not just on the box, but we've got to become more creative in what we do in the classroom to meet those needs of those kids who will, down the road, be doing things that we never could take.
Any chance that the presentation is new or
The only thing I want to check on, because this is from the company that we went to see the contract, I don't believe it's going to be a problem, but I want to check, yes, we're going to put it on our website as well if I can.
okay.
And then we are taping it, so we're having lots of opportunities. But like I said, I've already talked to principals about getting me in front of the staff for faculty meetings, at APT meetings, at any kind of community event we can get. I mean, we need to get the input from everybody, business leaders, things like that. I'm going around collecting business cards, not anybody that tells me they work in the district, so I can get to them. Police are all those people. We need to get as much input as we can for what we want our kids to walk across, like you're saying, walk across that stage. When they walk across that stage, all 100% of those kids should have the skills they need to thrive in whatever career they've chosen.
Yeah, not to interrupt the meeting, I'm a sophomore at the high school. One thing, as being a student and already in 10th grade, I'm already getting, but what are you going to do with college? Where do you want to go? What do you, like all this stuff, and I feel kind of like taken back. I kind of not just enjoy high school, but in being a millennial, we kind of get told, whether people realize it or not on a daily basis, that all you're doing is looking at your phone. I got yelled at by the teachers at the high school in classes saying that we're going nowhere because we have our phones, because we have this, because we have that. So I think kind of what we're doing with this and also DCTC, empowering the millennials to be like, no, like, you can be great, you can do this, I think already is going to help us a lot. And one thing I know is Coble does a lot of is making sure, treating the students as individuals, which helps a lot. Kind of telling the kids, like, you're more than a soccer player, you're more than a football player. You know, I'm a cheerleader, so I have a stigma of being, a brat, but, kind of telling us, like, you're more than that. You can, you can't just go football your entire life. You have to have a plan, because every kid just wants to be successful, and every kid wants to make their parents proud. And I don't know one kid that doesn't want to be successful. So I think kind of telling us, like, you can do more than just be big and play football is what we need to start with, and just making sure our kids are okay mentally and physically. So when they get that diploma, they're not like, yeah, I got it. They're proud of themselves, and they're like, I did it. I think that's really important as a student.
Thank you for that. Good for you.
Get some of your friends out.
I invited everybody in that student forum to come tonight, so I'm assuming they had studying to do, so I'll be okay with it. But no, we want to share the wealth. I told them, go forth and talk to your other friends.
Yeah, I mean, I talk about it all the time with my friends, like, oh my gosh, like, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that, you know, like, all this stuff with college and stuff, it's like, we have to, you can't not be, like, I don't know, kind of, we feel pressured to be great, but we're getting told on a daily basis we're not going to be great because of our phones, because we have computers, because we have this, it's, you know, making sure that we're, and also being, like, to not switch the topic, but being scared to go to school sometimes, whether it be, you know, bullying, you know, looking different, acting different, having a different passion, and it not being the normal, you know, to go on a more extreme scale, you know, not feeling safe at school with what's going on, you know, I think that's always in the back of my mind, you know, every classroom I walk into, I think, all right, how can I get out of this? Like, how, like, you know, I shouldn't have to live like that. I shouldn't, as a student in 2019, almost 2020, worry about my life at high school. Because I want to go to school, I want to go to college, I want to know this, so I think kind of reassuring our kids, like, everything's going to be okay, this is a safe place, will also, I think, make kids be more present and in the moment, so they're not worried on their phone, texting this, texting that, they want to, you know, learn about math, learn about history, and all that stuff. I think super important as well.
Have you do the next presentation?
What do you do for community service?
Um,
How do you get your generation, your class out there helping the community? Not just in Exeter, but Berks County in general.
Well, like I said, I'm a cheerleader, so I help out with the younger girls down there. I know the football players help out with the younger football players, so I think helping out with the younger kids, I know, like, I love that, doing that a lot. And just kind of, you know, doing anything that I can as an individual to help the community out, especially as a cheerleader, we have that stigma, so I know our coaches are really big on making sure we're good people at the end of the day, and I think we kind of need to do it for all our, you know, because if a kid kind of sees a football player doing something good, he's going to go after that, because, you know, he doesn't want to do that, so I think, you know, kind of just being a good person at heart is, like, my dad helps out coach football at the high school. My dad always says, I want you to be more than just a jersey. I want you guys to be good people at heart. And I think kind of just putting that more into our heads is really important. And it's not like, oh, you're not weird because you do community service. Like, that's good. Like, you should help people out. It's not, you're not any less. It's anything you know.
How do you get all the students involved? How do you get all the students involved? Besides just the athletes, the cheerleaders, and so on?
I feel like maybe doing community service is something they love, you know, like helping younger kids out with something they're passionate about, I think could really, really, really improve it. Like, if they're really big into computers and all that stuff, maybe helping, you know, make one of these presentations could be community service, could be, you know, like if they're like singing out and just doing something they love will really help us, not only help them out with community service, but maybe they're like, oh, I love teaching kids, so they maybe go into teaching, which is something they never thought about. So I think using their passion and kind of pushing them with that, I think could really, really, really help our kids stay more motivated and more just passionate about that. I think it's super important.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's nice.
And I'll see her Thursday at the Daniel Boone game. The game has been changed. It's Thursday, not Friday.
What is it Thursday?
It's been changed. There's a mutual agreement between the teams.
Thank you.
Word.
All right. Okay. Thank you all very much. I'm going to turn this over now to.
Does Dr. Hember want to?
Well, this is business, so we're going to turn to you, but Dr. Hemmer is going to start. Okay? So the first you're going to think is PA Schoolworks, correct? Okay. Dr. Hemberger, Schoolwork President.
Well, hi everybody. I have to say to Michelle, I'm kind of sad you won't have more folks out there. I'm really appreciative for those of you who did come out.
I think we all should do something about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Very friendly next time.
very friendly.
Go after it.
Sometimes I wonder, you know, I worked in districts where I've worked in districts where we've been in a crisis, there's been a major issue, and in cases like that, people come out and when they're passionate about something, when they're really upset. So I mean, the only thing, my only interpretation is that people are okay with what's going on in the school district. They're not feeling compelled to come here and voice either opposition or new ideas because they must be. My only interpretation is must be satisfied. I'm not sure if I think that's a good reason not to come out, but I do know that if we were talking about building a $50,000 bus transportation center, we would probably fill this place and more. So there are issues that bring people out, and I'm excited to folks. I want to keep my my short, I have handed out materials. It's the stuff on the table that looks like a graph. Some other things go along with that. And this is what I want to share this evening in preparation for our discussions about the budget. Because Anne's here this evening, Anne Geis, our budget director, and she's going to be talking a little bit about our plans this year to start to work on how we're going to fund education here in Exeter, what our priorities are going to be. But one of the things I want to kind of bring to your attention is what I consider to be a simmering crisis in the state, which is underfunding of public education by the state. And what you see in front of you, the very first graph, let's take a look at this one here, the one you see on the top. And what does this represent? Well, this is where the state currently stands relative to all the other states in the country in regard to how education is funded. What it reflects is the fact that Pennsylvania, as a state, does not adequately fund, or doesn't fund nearly as much public education as other states do. What does that mean? Well, obviously it means that the money has to come from somewhere, and it shows, I think, that I think most people who look at this graph would say that it's far too much of an imbalance on reliance on the school property tax and the local contribution to funding of public schools. From 47 from the top, and of course this is 2015 data, so it may have changed just a little bit further. Pennsylvania is just not where it needs to be relative to funding. If you flip that over, flip that page over, and you see what percentage of our budget the state is currently funding. Here in Exeter, 23% of our budget comes from the money from our budget, for our budget comes from the state. If the state had covered what we believe to be a reasonable amount, which would be about 48% of the budget, we would be getting $9 million, $9.6 million more to fund education here in Exeter. $9.6 million is a significant amount of money. But what's happening is that $9.6 million that's needed right now is coming off of the backs of our local taxpayers in the form of property tax. Now there was a time back in, I'll say in the 70s, back when I was in high school, when I was in high school. And at that time it was a 50-50 proposition. The state picked up 50%, the school district picked up 50%. And that's pretty much the way it had been for a while. But progressively and over time, we've seen an erosion in the percentage and the amount that the state is actually contributing. And that's part of the problem that we have right now. So we're really funding about 75 to 80% of our costs. So what do districts tend to do? When they don't have enough funding, when they realize that the state's not going to come forward with adequate funding, but costs continue to go up every year, and they're reluctant to raise property taxes to kind of cover those. But what we're finding out right now is 40% of districts in the state are planning to increase class size. 36% of districts are going to furlough or reduce staff. And 30% are going to consider cuts to programs and services for schools. This is what happens when the state doesn't really provide adequate funding for the school district. So that's not the only area. The other area that's really a major driver of our costs is special education. And the other part, the PA School Works, which by the way is a great organization designed to advocate for adequate school funding in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, PA School Works has identified the fact that in Pennsylvania, 1 in 6 students who receive special education, and that's this sheet right here, you can see. 1 in 6 receive special education. In the last decade, Pennsylvania State's share of special ed funding has fallen from 36% down to 25%. So that difference is being made up by school districts. And we know one of the big drivers, what increases every single year, pretty significantly, in our school district, is more and more money spent on special education. This is what we call an unfunded mandate. But in this particular case, it's an inadequate funding mandate, because there is some funding. If you look on the back of that sheet, Since 2010 and 11, special ed costs have risen 29%, but the state share, again, has only increased 4% over time. And then finally, on the last page, and that's a colorful page here with the other graphs, this kind of shows us special education in a different way. If you look at the bottom line, the red line on the top graph, that reflects the federal government contribution for special education costs in Pennsylvania. And you can see it's pretty well flatlined. The federal government has not a big part to play in public education. Special education is the one thing that's a federal law. And the federal government has opted to pay a certain percentage of our costs, which currently in Pennsylvania, it's about 6% of those costs come from the federal government. Take a look at what's happened in Pennsylvania, though, with the state contribution. And that's the blue line above that. And you can see back in 2007, 2008, where they were funding about 35%, and now down to about 22.5%. So what's happened? Look at the top line. That's our local contribution. And back in 2007 and 8, about 59% was covered by the school district, up to 71.5%. And then basically at the bottom graph kind of shows you another representation there. It shows you the amount of money that's actually paid for special education. Now, right now, special education in Pennsylvania costs $47 billion. That's how much it costs to operate special education in Pennsylvania today. Money is distributed to all the school districts, run programs, provide services, etc. The state's contribution is the blue on the bottom, and you can see that's pretty much been flatlined for a period of time. It was about $960 million back in 2007, 2008, and it's about $1 billion, a little over $1 billion, $1.07 billion now for 2017, 18. And you can see the federal government's contribution has remained flat, pretty much so. But look at again, look at the funding by the local property tax by the local school districts. It's grown enormously, and it's grown from about $1.6 billion to now about $3.3 billion a year. It comes directly from local sources. This is part of the problem that we have in Pennsylvania, and I think it should be a wake-up call for all of us. And the only way for this to change is for our legislators to really start to wake up and recognize that they've failed to really do the job. And their job really is to kind of make sure that they're adequately funding education in Pennsylvania, and they're not. So we as a district, I think we're going to be faced with some tough choices. Obviously, we've been going on year after year, trying to raise property taxes to a minimum degree to try to keep it as balanced as we can, cut services and programs wherever we can. But it's not going to hurt the district. But more and more, the more lead we get, recognizing that every year costs go up, the more difficult those decisions are going to be. And that's going to be part of our discussions this year. But the other part of that, my other part of my message really is about advocacy for public education and about the need for all of us to think about contacting our legislators, whether it's an email, a phone call, a visit, some kind of a personal contact, to really kind of let your legislator know how you feel about public education, what you think needs to happen in Harrisburg, so that we can get back on track with that. It's not all about spending. Because I think we spend a lot of time in this district trying to analyze how much we spend, and I think we operate extremely lean, budget. But it's about revenue too, and it's about the state developing sustainable sources of revenue to adequately fund public education. So I think we should all try to get together. That's why I was hoping we'd have a big group here today, because I would like to get a groundswell of response, from people who are interested in contacting their legislators, letting them know how important it is to adequately fund public education and consider sustainable forms of revenue to enhance what we're getting right now. And rebalance what has been, I think, an embarrassing imbalance in Pennsylvania, which is the state's share versus the local contribution. That's my message this evening in preparation for wonderful, I'm sorry, it's a depressing subject, I wish I had something more pleasing to say, but it's one of those things that I think we help talk about.
I was actually at a conference this weekend, and exactly what you just said is absolutely accurate. We were talking about that. The majority of the funding for state actually is in the middle of Pennsylvania. In the central, in the northeast section of Pennsylvania, especially in the southeastern part of Pennsylvania, there's very little funding towards education because of the amount of income that's there too. And also the politicians too. The Republicans are in the middle. So that's who gets all the money, those school districts. But it's really very interesting. We were talking about the inequalities, inequities of education.
Well, they implement what they call fair funding formula, and that was implemented just a couple of years ago. And I think with that, they've been able to kind of take into consideration things like hourly rate, free lunch, ESL, special education, and other factors that I think contribute to, the cost and also diminish the ability of the district to actually pay.
It's only like a small part of it because it's like a cake formula, and the part that's actually that's unequal throughout the state is actually the majority of the cake.
Well, you're right. I mean, it's what they call the legacy costs. I mean, it's what, so folks never really got anything less than what they always got in some cases. It might be Lower Merion School District and your student rate, your cost for educating one student at $25,000. You might be Turkeyville School District in central Pennsylvania, and your cost might be $5,000 or $6,000 per student. So there's a big discrepancy there.
Absolutely.
I was at a congressional hearing in Harrisburg a couple months ago, and the topic was countywide school systems, how much money we're going to save. And the ignorance that resides in those senators, which is what it was, is just totally amazing. And they really thought that was going to raise money. They never considered the fact that we have mostly community diversified sources of purchasing. They never considered the fact that the teachers, the contracts are mostly on the same level, reflecting the cost of living. They thought they were going to get, well, fortunately, I had a contact, and I had some information myself, and I showed them what the cost of the Antietam Exeter consolidation would have been. And there was no savings. There was no, and that's after we did away with the Antietam superintendent and everything else. There were long-term savings, but consolidating the school districts is an exercise in futility. Now, I know what they're going to do now anyway, but that's all right. I'm not going to tell you. It's a little scary.
Yeah.
But, no, they're looking at another round of consolidation as we had in the 60s, concentrating on bringing little districts, say Antietam, consolidating them with a larger district, say one that has about 4,000 to 5,000 kids, which is considered the ideal. So,
I think something like Antietam though, Antietam is almost like a district that encompasses 3 school districts, Reading, Ole, as well as Exeter. So having Exeter take all of Antietam is kind of unfair.
no, it's not unfair. It's Mount Penn High School. Most of the people from Exeter went to Mount Penn High School. If you look at my father's generation, because we didn't have a high school. We didn't have a high school until 57. And, so
It's really complicated, because I mean, you would hear it, and if you were consolidating, you would hear all their infrastructure, all the problems, all the debt,
At the time we were discussing that, we needed another junior high school. They had a high school over there, that
Yeah.
served it.
Yeah, very, very complicated. That's why there have almost always been 500 school districts in the proper movement.
But you talk about lean and mean, for 16 years that I was on the board, we never gave in the full state index. because that was based on the cost of living. And so we had the same increases in cost of living reflected in our expenses, utilities, buildings, maintenance, personnel, as anywhere else, but by keeping Ann down to 2 instead of 3, every year she was looking for ways to save. And so we manipulated Ann's, which probably is the reason she's going to.
Well, now's her opportunity to put lots of names.
That's right. Now's your chance.
And I'm going to turn it over to you. I know you have a presentation on me, so thank you for your
Thank you.
Okay, pardon? No, I can just press the action. This presentation is more of an outline of the new process that we're going to go through. I do want to emphasize that this district has been very diligent over the years in controlling the budget. And we have reduced staff as our enrollment has gone down. We take a lot of steps, cooperative purchasing, for a lot of different things, for energy, for supplies. So we have been diligent, but why do we need a new process? And I'll show you in a little bit why we need it. And one of the reasons, Dr. Hemmer was pointing out about the funding for special education, the $50 million that they put in the budget for the increase for the subsidy for school districts, nowhere will get us out of the reduction in special ed funding over the years, and it puts the burden on the local taxpayers. And as he said, costs keep going up, and a lot of districts, I believe, are headed in deficit spending, and that's one direction we may be headed in, which is why we need to look at a new budget review reduction process. We need to engage the community. We need to, we've always had our internal stakeholders, evaluating the budget, but we need to engage the external stakeholders more in evaluating what we really want to provide our students as a basic quality education that's affordable, that the local effort can afford. So we have budget challenges. Our local funding, now Dr. Hemmer presented some percentages. These are more encompassing of all costs versus just looking at, just direct education. So our local funding is about 69% compared to the county. We're on average 69%. School districts in this county are at that level as well as what we provide through tax dollars primarily. The challenges that we have are with property assessed value. It really, unless you have a huge commercial development, it does not go up that much. We're limited on any additional residential construction. Assessment appeals, we continue to have assessment appeals, and I'll show those results in a few slides. And again, increasing special education costs. We're faced with wage and benefit cost increases. We negotiate contracts and a deficit spending trend, which I'll share that in a little bit. So state sources, they haven't kept pace for basic ed or special education. Our percentage that we get from the state is about 29%. 29% is the county average. So the dollars that have been coming from the state really have been for PSERs, for the mandated employer contributions. That is really taking a bigger piece of the pie of the state's budget. The contribution rate this year is 34.29%. So looking at an average, how much additional funds are we getting from the state for basic ed? Over the past 5 years, an average of $130,000. Special ed, 5-year average, $38,500. So these are real challenges, and it's really causing hardship on local effort, but it's really going to impact the programs that we'll be able to offer, and also the resources that we are going to be able to provide for those students that need more.
This slide illustrates assessed value, the third column over, assessed value per pupil. If you follow the line for Exeter Township School District, our enrollment was about 3868. The assessed value per pupil is 354,000 approximately. We're 14th in the county. And really what that means is we do not have a huge tax base, not a huge commercial tax base. So if you look at Exeter, the very top in the heading, our millage rate, you multiply it by the assessed value per pupil. At our rate, we generate $11,700 in real estate property tax. So we've Wilson at 26.26 mills. They are at lower mills, but their assessed value per pupil is $420,000. So they can generate relatively the same amount of revenue with a lower millage. And I really like to emphasize that to everyone because people wonder why are our taxes so high? It's because of our assessed value, our tax base. The regular assessment, the results came in, I got them yesterday. 1920, we budgeted at a assessed value of 1.428 billion. The appeals, which will be effective for 7/1/2020, are reducing our assessed value by 4.6 million. That's 153,000 less in property tax revenue as getting out the gate on 7/1/20. So now that's before interims, quarterly interims, and potential appeals. There's one commercial property or two that we may appeal. One of the large reductions was at the Old Giant. The owner appealed based upon a sales agreement that the township has to purchase the Old Giant Promenade. So there's really nothing we really can do about that. And we continue to have residential appeals as well. So that's not good news. We continue to face that, and that is a budget challenge. This slide is from the source that Dr. Hamburger had provided. And basically all I want to say about this, which I said a little bit ago, is that $50 million that was put in the state budget for special education really does not help very much. It just continues to put the burden on local taxpayers to fund the significant increases in special education. So looking at our costs in special education from 17-18 to 18-19, year-to-year change, 1.3 million, comparing last year to the current budget, a $1.2 million increase in expenditures. So here we are getting $30,000 to $40,000 more from the state, on average for the past 5 years, and our costs are going up between 1.2 and 1.3 million dollars. So how are we going to deal with this? And that's one of the reasons of our budget challenges that we need a different review and a different reduction process to look for opportunities to save money or increase revenues. The next slide is really basically a chart which shows you wages, benefits, and special education going up. The orange is contracted services. That's for our speech, occupational therapy, our IU services that we contract out. The next blue line is tuition, out-of-district placements for students we cannot serve in this district. So you see the upward trend. This slide illustrates the things that Dr. Hamburger pointed out and we've heard before. The blue line, the retirement mandated, this is the reimbursement. That's a bigger piece of the state's budget. Special education, dotted line, that's flat line. And basic education is, slight increases, but really not enough to support or to relieve the local effort. This slide illustrates deficit spending trend. 18-19, we ended up with a deficit of expense over revenue of $746,000. That's the number in red in the first column. And that means we spent more than revenue that we had received. And I've reviewed this in different budget meetings, but current budget was adopted with a $2.6 million deficit. It was a planned use of fund balance. The taxes were increased 1.5%. But what I would like to point out is that the reason for, if you look through the middle column, the reason for the deficit primarily has to do with wage and benefit increases. And if we look to the projection of 2020, and these are projections from last year, we're currently working on the 2021 budget. And as we move forward in presentations, we will show revised projections. But this will continue to make the budget very difficult. That $2 million increase in wages and benefits will only compound. Without any tax increase, it's just going to compound, and it's just going to increase the deficit from 2.7 million to 4.7 million the following year. So we're at a stage where we really have to look at ways to reduce, and it will be looking at staffing levels. Because as you notice, in the other line item under expenditures, it's broken between salary and other. Pretty much holding those flat in projections. So to speak in general terms about a budget reduction process. So what are the goals? The school board has a goal to really examine, almost audit, look for opportunities to save money. But really the goal in a reduction process is to achieve a balanced budget. And it's not going to happen in 1 year. It's going to take a few years. And it's going to take talking to our legislators about more funding for basic education, special education. The other goal is to arrive at a reduced budget without acrimony, either within the district or the community. We don't want this to have, bitter. We want to really come to consensus on what areas we can reduce in. We have to form a partnership. The community has to realize the challenges that we are facing, and help us identify or support areas where we think we can reduce some of those extras. But we also want to make sure that the recommendations have the lowest possible impact on the district's classrooms. So everyone really has to be involved in this process to come up with suggestions on how to reduce the budget. We will be identifying and engaging stakeholder groups. We'll have internal meetings first with our administrators, different staff members, students, depending on what area we're examining. But also, once we get to having the external meetings, external stakeholders, really inviting other people, parent advisory groups, to be engaged, to discuss all the recommendations and come to a consensus. Steps in the process really are, we need to analyze, and really looking at the current budget, which I kind of gave you an overview of what the challenges are, and examine what direction are we going in. What is a base quality education? What do we want at the elementary and secondary levels? Base quality education is something that should be protected from cuts. But it also may include program or service that the local community values so highly that the district cannot discontinue the program. So I envision there's going to be a lot of discussion about certain programs, strings at the elementary level or at grade 4, all the different electives at the secondary level. But it's really going to be up to departments, principals, pupil services, and different stakeholders to define what the bottom line really is. And we will be looking at non-mandated services because it's not mandated. That is where there may be an opportunity for cuts. And again, to emphasize, we want to develop a consensus that will be supported by the stakeholders. And we can't leave any through the process. And this is all new. I mean, as we go through it, there's going to be bumps in the road, and we're going to have to revise our plans. But what we really need to do is try and support one another to address these budget challenges going forward. So moving on to what are we going to review? We're really going to break the budget up into the functional areas. We'll start out by looking at elementary and secondary, looking at the mandated base quality education. We'll look at class sizes. We'll look at the extras that they have, things that are not mandated, but we offer. We'll look at the secondary teacher schedules, the electives, student-teacher ratios. Again, I mentioned earlier, strings instruction. Take a look at that. The STEM program at the elementary level. We need to look at regular education aids. We will be, looking at comparing to our peer schools, how much support do they have in terms of regular education aids. They're not mandated, but they provide a lot of value to our students and to our teachers. But when you're looking for reductions, these are the areas that you really need to take a close look at. So we'll be costing out all of these things, comparing the different metrics, and hopefully coming up with some recommendations. So when we meet, like I said, we'll be meeting with the internal stakeholders, the principals, department heads. We'll have meetings prior to the public meeting. And we will all be getting on the same page, hopefully, before we come to a meeting to discuss with our community, so that we have some legitimate reductions that can be considered. Next, we'll be looking at, in addition to the electives at the secondary level, student supply fees, marching band as a credit course, AP courses. What are scenarios if some electives are removed and the impact it will be on students? So the plan of action to revise the secondary schedule. How long would that take? There's a lot of things to consider, and I just want to emphasize it is going to take more than one budget cycle. So the things that we have to consider when evaluating all different parts of the budget are board policy. Is it part of base quality education? The level of service that we offer, the legal challenges, and the productivity analysis. And what that really means is there an alternative technology in offering something? Are there different procedures that could be used in doing something, whether it's operational, educational, to try and save costs? The next section we'll be looking at will be special education, direct instruction. Again, across the board, we'll be looking at staffing, contracted services. Is there opportunity to make changes there to save budget dollars? Looking at out-of-district placements. Again, a lot of cost analysis involved in every aspect of this. Supporting instructional services, guidance, psychologists. Again, every aspect of that, staffing ratios, library aides, the coaching positions that we have will be evaluated. Moving on to the existing operating support services, this is your maintenance, buildings and grounds, custodial, looking at benchmarking data. What do those staffing ratios look like? We may have more, our custodial staff may cover more square footage to clean than other peer schools. So we need to look at that. Or we need to look at what we're requiring them to do. We need to prioritize, because we really don't want to be adding more staff. But in order to get the job done, we have to prioritize what really is most important. Transportation. If we get into a cash crunch, look at leasing, a lease purchase option versus buying outright versus buying with cash. The other administrative services that we'll be looking at, technology. Again, a lot of this is repeated with each section, but software utilization. We pay a lot of software fees annually. Are buildings utilizing it? And is it effective in providing our students with what they need? Or are there other opportunities with something that's less expensive? Principal's office, are they adequately staffed to provide the level of service, customer service that we want? Use of volunteers. Business office, again, is there an opportunity to share services in any way? Human resource office. Managing absences, the absences cost a lot. The cost of substitute teachers is over $450,000 a year. That is quite a bit. Is there an opportunity to somehow manage that to reduce that cost? Student activities, these are, and athletics are two non-mandated areas, which we need to really look at. Those student activities that have a paid advisor, are they fully functioning and offering our students value? What is the membership level like? Are they actively planning activities throughout the year? Athletic program, again, let's look at what our peer schools are offering. The junior high school program, how much do we really need to offer there? And the booster support, is there any way they can provide some more relief to the general fund budget? So these are the major areas that we will be reviewing. The community stakeholder meeting timeline, this is tentative, we talked about it this morning, and I will be discussing with the school board members and our administrators who will be presenting at these meetings if these dates are good. But at this point, we're looking at a meeting in late November, sample time to finish pulling the 2021 budget together to meet with the elementary principals and other internal stakeholders to talk about the elementary program and hopefully have some recommended reductions. And if we don't, then they will justify they need to keep what they have. December 19th, these are all Thursdays. Secondary program review, and also look at the student activity reviews because they are secondary activities. January, we'll be tackling special education, direct instruction, as well as the instructional support services. January 23rd, other administrative services review. February 13th, the athletic program review. And then finally, February 20th, the existing operating support services review. Again, as I mentioned, we'll be having meetings preceding each of these to develop our presentations, develop our recommendations, and then come to the community and present. Want to add anything?
The only thing I want to say, these are not easy discussions, but they're necessary. We need to know from the community, if we want to raise taxes, is that something that you'll accept? And if there are areas in the budget that you don't feel passionate about, as a consensus, those are areas that we can reduce and hopefully save some of that impact on the other areas. So it's not a fun conversation, it's not an easy conversation, but it's a conversation that we have to have.
So these meetings will often get what time and is it allowed building?
So we're probably at least here, I would assume we're gonna have a crowd. So we won't have enough space
So
left.
what time will they?
I don't know if we determined that. I mean, these are preliminary, so I just saw these dates myself. This morning. So I mean, it seems like 7 seems to be the best time to give people a chance to go home, feed their kids, and try to get here. Anything earlier than that might be a problem.
So,
I'm sorry?
is that obviously not because nobody's here?
Well, again, I mean, I would hope we're gonna do what we can to get the word out and really beat the bushes, but this is a situation that people need to show up for, because we're trying to make decisions, and if we have silence is complicit, we're not gonna get anybody to come out and say, keep that. I mean, yes, sir.
Well, I just had a question.
No, I was gonna say one quick real thing. We tried to save some money last spring, and one of the areas we were gonna reduce was the busing for the band to go to the away football games. That place was packed. So that was a nerve. Well, we would hope that other people in all those areas will come out, because everybody should have a nerve that's touching across.
I think with that discussion, I think the parents came out because I talked to a couple of my friends who were very vocal in that. And they said, well, this is Exeter. They put more emphasis on sports than they do anything else. So the football team was allowed to travel, the cheerleaders were allowed to travel, but the band was not. So there's the discrepancies right there. So I think it has to be equal throughout the board if we're going to do
Well,
something.
that's exactly what you heard from Ed. Those nights will be inclusive of everything in that functional area. So people should come out.
You can mention that hopefully the staff would all be on the same page. I recommend, if you want the community to be involved, if there's one thing I used to hear is, well, it doesn't make any difference that we're there anyway. So why not narrow it down to 3? The board will ultimately be responsible for making the decision, but if you have option 1, option 2, option 3, or option 1 and option 2, this is supported by some, this is supported by others, what do you as a community feel like? And, I'm not saying they don't have the responsibility, you have the responsibility, but at the same time, if you want their opinion, don't tell them this is the way it's going to be, you tell them this is what we have to do.
Well, I think that's what Ann said. We're going to be offering, if you want this, support it. If you don't want this, don't support it, and it's going to go. I mean, we're going to put it out.
You said the staff's all on one page. Well, if the staff's all on one page, then the decision's made.
I don't remember you saying that, but what I'm saying is we need to be on the same page before we come in front of the community.
I wrote it down.
Okay, well, we need to be on the same page before we come in front of the community.
Why?
A
Why
united
not
voice.
say,
A united
why
voice.
not say the superintendent is in favor of this and the business manager is in favor of this? Where do you think we should go? And I'm not saying you have to identify.
No, understood, but I've tried that before and I've been
that.
killed for it, so we're not going to go there with the superintendent response. We're going to go there with the community response.
Well, no, you go with the options that you're facing, that the
Appreciate
board is
Appreciate your
facing.
input.
And it doesn't matter where they came from, you don't have to identify it as, blame it all on me, I don't give a damn.
That's
Yeah,
what,
I mean,
that's what,
Bob,
it's blame it on Bob.
I sort of have a sense of what you're talking about, and I think what it comes down to is, from the way I see it, this is an opportunity to gather information, to sort of gauge the general support in the community, where the priorities exist, where there's maybe an opportunity to kind of find areas that are maybe not quite so highly prized or prioritized or diminished in terms of their interest in the community. and then try to calibrate a budget based on that. But I think where you're talking about is that after all this data gathering, if you want to call it that, then the administration, I think, will be in a position to say, this is what we're here for.
And that's not up
These are
there yet,
recommendations that
but
we're.
there will be one culminating event that puts all these 8 meetings together.
Yeah.
In a full budget.
I mean, ultimately, I think you're right, it's going to be, a lot is going to be up to the administration in terms of coming to us, I think, as a board, with some proposals based upon your best understanding of what the community wants, what's going to work, you know, from your position as administrator. Nobody really understands quite like we do. And I've said this before, I mean, the people who are the budget managers, the people who spend the money, people who are responsible for these programs, they're the ones that we really need to kind of work with too. Because they know where the soft spots are in their budgets and what's maybe expended. I had a question, I just follow up the question I had before. My question really was to Ann in terms of, are we going to cover anything related to charter schools, cyber charters especially? Or is that something you consider to be a mandated kind of non-discretionary kind of area?
Well, that would fall under both special education, because that's a tuition category, and it falls under regular ed as well. Yeah, sure.
Have we got time to talk about it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that definitely would be brought up.
There'll be a topic.
Because it's obviously something we have limited control over. And also to share with the public about how flawed that funding is, or what we're required to pay in terms of tuition. I mean, the whole calculation it's horrendous, the burden. It doesn't reflect their costs at all. I mean, it's outrageous, really. So we will be addressing it.
I know we don't have much of a choice in terms of funding it. The choice that I guess we have is in terms of how we, as a community, try to work with our, let's say, cyber school families, try to bring them either back into some of our own virtual academy programs, or try to bring them back for school.
Sure. So
and to sell them on Exeter. Why are you out there? I mean, why not Exeter? Why not come back to your public school?
Yeah, there's definitely a marketing opportunity there now that, you know, because we will have had 1 year of the Exeter Virtual Academy kind of under our belt, and things are going really well, and I anticipate that growing. And so I do agree with you. I think there are some opportunities where there are things that we can sell our cyber charter kids on, you know, namely the diploma at the end of 4 years saying Exeter Township Senior High School, that has some weight to it that charter schools, cyber schools just can't offer.
But anything in the function will be part of your discussion. So in that section, it would be covered.
Under pupil services, guidance, Dr. Miller could share, we should get a guidance counselor share what they do on an annual basis. What's really great about this process is that other people will be speaking.
Well, and it's to your point, the budget managers will be the ones presenting.
Yeah.
The ones who are in the trenches, so to speak, creating the budgets, will be presenting to the public. This is what our budget is, and this is why we need it.
I just want, getting back to charter schools for a second, I attended the Pennsylvania School Board Association. There was a district there in Coatesville, which is in Chester County. They've got 1,500 students that are in cyber or charter schools. Most of those are in brick and mortar charters. 1,500 students. They pay $50 million a year out of their budget for kids to attend non-public, well, they're public schools, I mean, they're charter or cyber charter schools. 50 million, that's almost a third of their budget goes to cyber school or charter school. That was amazing, and what they did, they talked about what the campaign that they're putting in place to try to bring back, to develop their own options, and to bring back students to the programs. I think all schools, districts really should think about that seriously, because this is not an education, a great educational option for most.
And there's legislation out there now, and it's bipartisan, I just don't know if the lobbyists will ever let it happen, where if a district has a virtual program, you have to avail yourself of it, or if you decide to go to one of the others, you have to pay yourself to pay. Now, Senator Schrank's been pushing that for years. She finally has some on the other side of the aisle, but the lobbyists, they just have deep pockets, and that's a problem.
So, Ann, I have a couple questions just from the PowerPoint. Hello, my name's Deborah Reingold. I have 2 boys in the district. They didn't attend it. I've been living here maybe for about 15 years in the township, and they've been in school maybe for 4 or 5 years now. I'd just like to make you maybe kind of sidebar and think about just the sensitivity as you deliver the message that there's a large budget that is being utilized for children that are struggling with some type of disability. That's been a very powerful message I'm hearing. Children with, as we know, disabilities, they're not going to diminish. I don't bring to you children that need that kind of support, but if I would, I'd be very uncomfortable even going forward with really what you're trying to kind of target.
And when you say target, we're as Dr. Hemmer mentioned, it's really the legislators who are targeting with that, but I see how it does come across like that. We can change that a little bit.
Just a couple of things I wanted to kind of inquire a little bit more about. So out of the district placements, do we have like a number of students, or do we have a
on a monthly basis, we do know they've gone down. We have our own program now called More Life, where instead of students going outside the district, we're keeping them in. Anytime a student would normally go outside the district from this point forward is a savings to the district, because we're not paying that out of district costs, we're not paying those transportation costs. Years ago, I think when I first got here, we were closer to 100.
Okay.
Now we're almost half of that.
Okay.
So we're doing what we can to try and minimize that and still support our students as needed.
And like for students that are accelerated and receiving any kind of like gifted education, what is that an expense for the district?
Yes, it's a budget.
It's a budget, but it's not, when you look at the out-of-district placements, that's not an expense that you would incur from the gifted group. So it's not nearly that kind of volume.
So if we reduce those numbers for gifted, would that really be a benefit at all?
Well, again, when we talk about reduction, and Ann said it enough, I think we need to probably say it maybe more bolded in it. We're not looking to reduce programs that we want that benefit our students. But if there are programs out there that maybe the community does not particularly feel, it kind of dovetails with what we talked about with Portrait of a Graduate. If there's something that we're doing that, that's a great program to have, but I wouldn't be too upset if we didn't have it anymore. Those are programs that we can certainly do away with without anybody feeling any kind of pain. And we don't want to do that. We don't want to inflict pain. This summer, we did some reduction, if you want to use that term, in our gifted program. We were able to reduce 1 staff member and still actually provide better service through Mrs. Isselman. She's now working at the junior high and Rifton. And we had this place was filled with gifted parents. And we had 2 nights of really good discussion. They made it really clear they wanted to make sure that program was robust and was going to fit the needs of their students. And they were able, Mrs. Isselman was able to show them that the program was going to meet their needs, actually fit a better program, and we still were able to make a reduction. So those are the kind of things that we're looking to do. Make reductions in areas that won't hurt students, won't hurt the program, won't hurt what the community values. But again, I don't know, Ann's been here a lot longer than me. I don't think this is a discussion we've ever had. So there may be things that have been going on just because we've done them for years and years and years. That doesn't resonate as much with the community, and it's not going to be as painful if that's something that we do away with.
Sure.
And we can save some money.
I just wanted to say thank you for your feedback about that. But these are just snippets of information. It doesn't tell the whole story. In regard to the increase in special education costs, there is something called the special ed exception, referendum exception, where boards can decide to raise taxes above the index based upon increasing costs in special education. So there is support out there. I was not suggesting at all, going after that, but this board could decide to raise taxes above the index and take that exception, which would be worth $1 million, and cover some of those rising costs. But their situation is, taxpayers they don't want to see such increases. well above 3%, up to 4.5%. So that's why we're going through this process to see, are there other areas, the extras that we don't need where we can reduce. We have a wonderful special education program. The point is we don't want to take away anything from any of our kids.
Sure.
And we're just looking at the extras.
Yeah.
That can be.
And I changed that as well.
Yeah.
But just another, kind of major variable, just so, energy. Just so right now there really are hidden costs that some of the students are paying for. So when you do your inventory for some of these extracurricular activities, my one son paid the $100 activity fee, and then on top of that, he had to pay $40 towards potential transportation that he would need for the club that he's involved in. And that was not, $40 was perhaps significant for the week that we put it out and I gave it to him. Now this week I have the disposable money. But it's, there are some other clubs that I know me and my other son would like to be involved in, and not knowing now, are there going to be hidden costs, and just to make that relevant.
Which club was that?
TIS. Remember last year there was an issue with their transportation, and so to afford that issue this year, they were asking the students to supplement.
And we'll have those discussions with the principal. Thank you.
Oh, over here.
One of my concerns is, I have Ms. Warrior, 3 hats because I am a resident of Exeter, I'm a parent, as well as I'm a teacher and also the president of the association.
That's 4 hats.
Okay, that's 4. I kind of combine the teacher and the association together. But anyways, one of the things that makes Exeter such a valuable place to live is our school district. And that's something I think that we need to keep in mind. What are we in the business of? We are in the business of education. We started eliminating AP classes. We started consolidating classes where it's like 30 students in one class. They're not getting that individualized attention. They're going to be left behind a lot. And my fear is some of the, maybe some of the average students or even some of the special ed students are going to be mixed in that, and they're going to be left behind because of the dollar amount. For myself, I hate paying taxes. I don't like paying taxes. But we need, as a community and as a society, we need to understand that our education is, until we get change in Harrisburg, until we get change in our federal government, we are going to have to pay taxes. We are going to have to actually put out that money too. And trust me, I feel the burden as everybody else as well too. But we're in the business of education. Yeah, there are definitely cuts that I think the district needs to make. It should be in the classroom? Should it be in education? No, it should not be. And I feel very strongly about that because we are in the business of education. Our students are going to be successful because of the education that we have. And we have to remember that. You back there, I don't know your name, I don't hate to say you, but you will be successful because of the education you have in Exeter. You will.
Yeah,
Not just the academics, but the life skills that you're going to have out there.
Yeah, 100%.
So we have to be, aware of that. And honestly, I feel for my students because I'm a special ed teacher. And a lot of my students are also lower income students. They are the ones that are going to be suffering. They will be. Let's face it. They will be. So, and we have to be aware of that. We are in the business of education. We cannot lose sight of that. People move into Exeter because Exeter has quality education. And yes, I am willing to pay higher taxes because of that quality education. My son is graduating this year. He's going to go up. He was successful because of his teachers. He's successful because his SATs were off the charts. His ACTs were off the charts. And also his AP. When we started eliminating AP classes as well to what colleges are looking for, that's a disaster. We cannot do that just to save a buck here and there. And our community needs to come out and actually hear some of this. And I know some of you probably do not like what I'm saying, Jerry,
Why
But,
do I always get pointed
because,
at?
yeah, you don't like anything I say.
It's open, it's fine.
But as a community, we have to get the message out there. We are all stakeholders in making sure that our children, whether you have children or not, I mean, I will not have a child in Exeter anymore. He's graduated, he's going off. But I know, as a community, we are responsible for everybody. It doesn't matter where they come from. It doesn't matter how rich they are. It doesn't matter how poor they are, or how socioeconomic, if they're English language learners. It doesn't matter. We are responsible for them. We are responsible for the next generation to make sure that our society continues on. So I'm just going to make sure that everybody understands that I am going to, and our association is definitely going to be on the side of education when it comes to these budget cuts. So,
When it comes to like AP classes as a student, I'm not in any AP classes. I definitely learn a little bit more. I learn a lot easier one-on-one. Having a teacher be like, this, break it down for me, kind of have that extra support. I need that. If I didn't have that in high school, I don't know where I'd be, what I would be doing. So I think what we should do is take AP, because I used to hear kids be like, I have AP this, AP this, AP this, AP this, and then stressing out, not knowing what to do with themselves. I think we need to make AP a little bit more like, this isn't just a label, it's, you have to put the work into it, you have to do more stuff like that. And
unfortunately, colleges look at that.
the colleges do look at that, but I think also kind of just make, like, in one-on-one, I wouldn't be as successful if I didn't have the one-on-one time, all that stuff, kind of individualizing every student. And also, what you said about band, them not going to away games for football, I go to every single away game, and sometimes I don't want to, but I go. But band, they get there halfway through the first quarter, do it second quarter, leave don't do all third quarter, and half the fourth quarter. So it's why we're paying all this money to have them go out there to only participate in about less than 50% of the game. And it's for the experience, but it's like, we shouldn't do that. I remember last year we had a game
See,
where...
And this is, I mean, I get what you're saying, and this is where the disparity lies, because you do have parents who are football parents, you have parents who are cheerleader parents, you have parents who are band parents. So you're actually favoring two groups over one group, and that's where the issue lies.
Can I speak to that? Because I was going to say something, because I was at that meeting with the band. As you can see, my son as a freshman, because of the Exeter band, we have 3 kids that performed in front of 110,000 people on Saturday at Penn State's White House. So they're on the field. I've gone to pretty much every football game for the last 4 years, and what you just said, I've never seen happen. They're there at the beginning of the game, unless there was transportation issues. They perform first quarter, second quarter. They're allowed to go to the concession stand in the third quarter, fourth quarter. They're back in those stands performing. They perform after the game. They're there to perform. So the cheerleaders, so the football team, the coach actually came to the band last 2 years and had them move because of the support they give the kids on the field. You have 130 kids now in that band, where at a home game, you probably have 300 to 400 parents or supporters of the band coming to that. And if you're tying it into everything, I went with the athletic program and everything. I'm a 3rd generation Exeter graduate. I've been here. I've never touched an instrument in my life. I've played sports. I was a coach at Exeter. These programs tying into what we talked about earlier, which we presented about what you want your students to be, those soft skills, those interpersonal skills are going to come more from the bands, the athletics, the clubs. That's where they get that more to the smaller group, smaller interaction. So to the board, to the administration, watch cutting that, because that's what you guys want to see as an Exeter graduate. That's where they're going to get that more than in the classroom, is from the clubs, the sports.
And studies have actually shown that music has actually increased cognitive learning.
I mean,
I'm just saying.
Going to all these football games and talking to band parents from other schools, when they see our band walk in there, they're like blown away. by our music department, what we put out in that field, not just our music department, it's our chorus, I mean, not just band, it's the chorus, the orchestra. We go to these district competitions and everything, you see an Exeter kid in that all the time. We hosted the chorus last year, we're hosting the band this year. So it's, our music department stands well above anyone else in this county. I mean, it's outstanding, and like I said, I never knew what went into it until my kid decided he wanted to play music. And when the stuff he got from that program, it's the reason why he is up at Penn State. Because he got those interpersonal, he came to high school with 200 friends because he was with them the minute, 2 weeks before school started, felt a part of something coming into high school. So, and the other part with the AP classes, colleges do look at it. My son did not take one AP class, and he got accepted to main campus as a freshman. So, it's good, but it's not the end all be all for the AP classes. I mean, they definitely help, but they're not all needed all the time.
And you just provided a great example of what we're looking for from input when we have these meetings. People coming out and letting us know how they feel, what's important, and somehow, some way, we're going to have to figure that out. But that's exactly it. Yep.
What are you talking about? I was talking about something.
You were saying education.
That's all it is. No, I was saying definitely education. But with the band and the football and the cheerleaders, what the board was proposing was letting the band and the cheerleaders go to football games and the band stay home. And that's why some of my friends came out and fought that, because it wasn't fair. So we on the same page?
Yes.
Do you have any idea on what the process will be at these meetings? So will there be like a presentation at the beginning with?
Depending on whatever night it is. So let's take it's going to be the athletics and the band night or what have you. Mr. Legatt's going to be up here, whoever else is in charge of those budgets, Mr. Campbell, everybody else, they're going to present their budget. This is what we're doing, this is what it costs, and then you're going to hear the input. Well, hold on, wait a second. I see there that you're flatlining that budget. It doesn't work that way. We go to two competitions every year, and they raise those by $500 every year. So now you're telling us we can't go to that. That's the kind of input we're going to be looking for. If they see that they're going to, I know we talked about this last year about reducing the junior high sports program. Junior high parents hopefully will come out and tell us why that's important. We had some board members who said why it was important. Again, more input helps guide what we're going to be looking at. But again, the interests of the district sometimes are going to have to come over personal interests. And I think that's the one thing that we're going to have to almost drive home every time we meet. I know education, band, whatever, contributing. But the three of us have to somehow get together and figure out how the three of us can reduce the load.
And that's, I'm not just all for it.
No, I'm just using you, I'm just using an example.
We just have to remember that, and maybe you want to bring it up at the beginning, everyone, is what is Exeter's focus of what a graduate's going to be.
Yep, well that's going to be at every meeting as well.
That has to tie in, because if you're not looking at that in your budget process, and you're going to say you need all those soft skills, then you're going to cut all the clubs and stuff like that. I'm not saying you're going to.
Understood. But don't forget, the portrait graduate is what's going on in the classrooms.
Yeah.
But the other stuff does bring all those soft skills as well. But I think we all have to figure out, we can't have education, we can't have band, we can't have cheerleading. If we don't cut anything, we're in trouble for our budget. So if there's a way we can cut a little bit of that, a little bit of that, a little bit of that, and no one gets hurt, that's really the goal of what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I don't think I'm just speaking out for the cheerleaders. I think
I'm just using that as an example.
No, I understand that, but for I'm speaking
easier.
out for every sport that kind of gets undercut. Like, I know cheerleaders were 8-time county champions, and we don't get looked at twice. I know volleyball, they're 4-time county champions probably tomorrow, and they don't get looked at. So I love the band kids, but I have some of my best friends in band, and they honestly, like, from freshman year now, they've grown so much, and I don't want them to suffer from it, but I want to speak up for kind of like it's more than just a band, it's more than just a sport. It helps us, that could be our only outlet. Some of our only friends would be from soccer or polo or anything like that. So I think cutting back is necessary, obviously, because I don't want to go broke, but I do want to make sure that all the students as individuals are still not feeling the pressure of like, are we okay? Do we have enough money? Or am I causing stress to my parents by being a cheerleader? Am I doing it like no one wants that? Cause stress to your parents.
I just have a question. So for these future sessions, which would warrant that the department heads, are they also instructors? Like
Yes, they are teachers.
So are they going to be afforded the opportunity to really work on the budget and kind of evaluate it and see how they can kind of cut
They
things?
work with the budget right now.
Are they doing that? Are they able to do that during school time?
They have time for that, because they do meet with the department chairs at a certain time.
Do they do that?
They're the ones who purchase the textbooks, they're the ones who come forward with us with, yes.
Sure, just so they're affording enough time to do it.
Well, we're a little late, 9 o'clock is usually how we try to end it, but thank you all for coming out, I appreciate it. We will be having other meetings, good discussion, we hope that you all come out and add to the discussion when we meet again